Hey guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to use the null factor law to solve equations, and in particular quadratics. And where the null factor law comes from, it's from the fact that if I multiply two numbers together, so I'm just going to call this one A and this one B, if I multiply these two things together, in order for them to equal 0, or null, then there's two things that would have to happen. Either my first number is equal to 0, which would be 0 multiplied by something would give me 0, or my second number could be 0, so it'd be something multiplied by 0 would also give me 0. So I've got two situations, either this first number, so A equals 0, or B would have to equal 0. So there's two possible situations and potentially two possible solutions. So we'll do a couple of examples and just show you how to use these. So we'll start with some easy ones first. And what you have to make sure is that you have something multiplied by something has to always equal 0. So even though it's in brackets, this first bracket is like my A, and this second bracket is like my B. So it's A multiplied by B equals 0. So the two things that can occur is my first bracket would be 0, equal to 0, which would make it 0 multiplied by something would give me 0. So either x plus 1 ends up being 0, or my second bracket ends up being 0. So x minus 1 could equal 0. Now, once you break it up into the two possibilities, then you just use your algebra to try and solve what possible values of x you could have. So I just subtract 1 to solve this side, so x equals negative 1. I'm going to add 1 to get x by itself. So my two possible solutions are x equals negative 1 or x equals 1. So if two of those things, or either one of those things happen, then one of my brackets will become 0, which ultimately makes the whole thing equal 0. So I've got two answers. Let's move on to one that's a little bit harder. So we've got x squared take 3x equals 10. So at the moment I can't use the null factor law because I've got this 10 here. I need to make it equal 0. So what I'm going to do is rearrange this equation to make it equal 0. So I'm going to take the 10 over to the other side. So I'm going to rewrite it as x squared take 3x subtract 10 is equal to 0. Now I still can't use that null factor law yet because I've got subtractions. What I need is something that's fully factorized and where multiplication is occurring. So hopefully you can realize that this is a trinomial. So I can factorize this side of the equation. So if we're doing that, I'm just going to do the shortcut method, but I need to find some numbers that multiply to get negative 10, and they have to add to get negative 3. So my two numbers that I will use are negative 5 and positive 2. So negative 5 times 2 is negative 10, negative 5 plus 2 is negative 3. So I'm just going to use the shortcut method for these. If you're not sure how to factorize trinomials or quadratics that look like this, I suggest you watching my other video. But when I factorize it, it's going to give me x minus 5 in the first bracket and x plus 2 in the second bracket equals 0. So now we've got our A and we've got our B. So my two situations is x minus 5 equals 0 or x plus 2 could equal 0 for this whole thing to become 0. So you just use your algebra again. So I'll add 5 to get rid of that minus 5. So my first solution is x equals 5. Subtract 2 over here. So my second solution is x equals negative 2. So there's two answers, x equals 5 or x equals negative 2. Let's do some harder ones. Now sometimes they'll trick you by throwing squares in and maybe an extra set of brackets or something like that. But I'm not going to panic. What I'm going to do is rewrite this out as two separate brackets just to see if it'll make it easier for you. So if I do that, it's going to be 3 multiplied by 2x plus 1, and because it's squared, it's just multiplied by the full bracket again, and it's going to equal 0. I don't need that equal sign over there. So this whole thing to equal 0, well, my 3 can't equal 0, that 3 is just going to be out there, he's not going to change, but this whole thing's going to become 0 if 2x plus 1 equals 0, or 2x plus 1 equals 0, which is the same thing. So you're only going to have one answer for this because obviously these two brackets are the same. So this whole thing is going to become 0 if 2x plus 1 is equal to 0. So now we've got to do our algebra to get this x by itself. So I'll take 1 to the other side. So we get 2x equals negative 1 divided by 2. So it's going to be x equals negative a half. So this time I've only got one answer, and that is because the brackets are exactly the same. So another example. Now this one's a little bit different because it's not a trinomial, as in we haven't got a normal constant at the end, but this still can be factorized. So we've got something plus something equals 0. We need to change this to a multiplication. So if we factorize it out, it'll be a multiplication. X goes into both of these. So we'll factorize out the x, and you're going to be left with x plus 2 equals 0. So again, we've got something multiplied by something equals 0. So my two situations is this first thing is equal to 0. So x could equal 0, or x plus 2 would equal 0. So I don't need to do anything over here. One of my answers is going to be x equals 2. And then over here, I'll just subtract 2 to get x by itself. So it'll be x equals negative 2. So my two answers are x equals 2 or x equals negative 2. Just one more. With a trinomial that's a little bit more difficult. Again, when you're factorizing trinomials, what you want to do is see if there's a number that all of these can be divided by first, and you're going to factorize that out. So these can all be divided by 2. So I'm going to factorize out the 2 from these. So it's going to be 2, and I'm going to be left with x squared plus 8x plus 12 equals 0. Now, I am multiplying two things together, but there's a lot of addition signs in here. And it's just like the previous question that I did. What I'm going to need to do is I'm going to have to factorize this out again so I can use the null factor. And it's a trinomial. So for the trinomials, remember it has to multiply to get this last number. So it has to multiply to get 12, all the two numbers, and they have to add to get 8. So this one's not too bad. Your two numbers are going to be positive 2 and positive 6. So 2 times 6 is 12. 2 plus 6 is 8. So I'm going to do the shortcut method to factorize this middle bit. So it's going to be x plus 2 and x plus 6 equals 0. So again, for this whole side to be equal to 0, then either this bracket x plus 2 has to equal 0 or x plus 6 has to equal 0. So x plus 2 equals 0 or x plus 6 equals 0. Again, use your algebra just to solve the x's. So x is going to equal negative 2, or x is going to equal negative 6. So I've got my two solutions there. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time.